with, oh, I thought I seen something. Yeah, welcome to Manifested Love, y'all. With Jay and Jolie. How's everybody doing? Oh, I knew something was off. My sound. Gotta make sure my sound is right. All right, how's everybody doing? Hold on once. All right. Yeah, so tonight I want to talk about the fathers. Now, usually every year on my other channel, I usually do like a dedication to the fathers. Um, I didn't do like a big video, but I want to do something on this channel, and the reason being is on this channel, the video that stood out the most was the Father's Day tribute short that I put up that was dedicated to the fathers that has passed away and gone on. And this year, my father was real heavy on my heart, so I just decided just to, just do something like that. I didn't really have no long speeches or anything like that, but the feedback that I got from that video made me want to go and do something, do another dedication video. So tonight, I'm going to be doing some special shout outs to some of the key people that has been positive in my life. Okay. Yeah, some of the key people that has been positive in my life. Um, you know, I'm gonna start from the beginning. Now, my dad, uh, we didn't have like the greatest relationship. He was in the household. He was in the household. He was a provider. He worked. He worked often. Like he took care of things, as far as the house. But he wasn't really the type of dad that was like hands on. Um, taking you fishing and you know teaching you how to ride a bike and stuff like that. I don't have experiences like that with him. Um, it was pretty simple. Now we went on vacations now because I do remember two vacations we took to Myrtle Beach. We were living in Maryland, and he brought us down to Myrtle Beach on vacations. I remember those vacations. And after him and my mom separated, out the little bit of relationship we had kind of went downhill. Um, I spent a lot of time trying to uh, try to salvage our relationship, and it kind of went, it didn't go too well. So it got to the point where I decided that, I'm just going to fly solo. Like I stopped talking to him for a while, and then um, probably like a little over a year later, I happened to be uh, going to visit some family, and I saw him, but I didn't see him. He saw me, and he called my name, but I didn't recognize him because the last time I saw him, he was dressed up. He was flashy, nice, brand new car, like. And when I saw him, he was in a wheelchair, and he was looking bad. And when he called me, I turned around and looked. He was like, "Hey, it's me, your father. It's me, your father." So I was like, and I just couldn't believe, you know. So I was really wanting to know like what happened. So through talking to him, he told me, you know, that he had an accident on the job. He was hurt on the job, and everything went downhill from there. And you know, I had two choices at that point. I had a choice to walk on and leave him, or to stand by him and take care of him. And I chose to stand by him and take care of him, and I'm glad I did because uh, that year, maybe year and a half, that I stood by him and took care of him was his last year of his life. And within that year, I had a chance to get some of the things that I always wanted from my dad. Like my dad had never told me that, or my brother, as far as I know, my brother, he never said he loved us. You know, I know he did, but he never said that. And for a while, like I was a little bit frustrated about that. But after experiencing things myself and making mistakes myself as a parent, I realized that the reason why he didn't have these values is because he probably wasn't taught. See, a lot of things that we go through in life are learned behaviors. And if we want to be better, we have to learn from from those things that we missed and going into moving forward with our children. We have to try to do better. So anyway, we wound up having that last year or so together, and my dad told me he loved me for the first time, and I really appreciated that. I felt like a little kid. Here I was hearing this for the first time, and I felt great, you know. So he's gone. He's gone on now, and ironically, he passed away a few months before my second child was born. And I'll always be grateful for the lessons that he taught and the teachings that he didn't teach, the lessons that came with that. There was a lesson in what he did and a lesson in what he didn't do. And it helped me a little bit more as I move forward with my kids. Now, we're not perfect. Me and my kids are not perfect at all. But I have changed a lot of things when it came down to my kids. Now, so I always be grateful to him for that, and what he, how he, what he meant to me, and I miss him. I really wish he was here now. Today, now my dad would be like 78. He would be 78 now if he was still alive, and I miss him. So I just wanted to say, happy Father's Day, happy Heavenly Father's Day to my dad, and you know, I love you and I appreciate everything that you done for me. Now, there was some other things that happened. Now, I spent a lot of my younger years upset. Now, I ended up with a stepdad, and I know I talked about this on my other channel, but just to kind of let y'all know what's going on. My stepdad, he started out as a good man. He taught me some things, taught me how to fish, taught me how to fix cars, taught me carpentry. Uh, you know, he was a cool dude. He was a real cool dude. But then, all of a sudden, he just started changing. He started changing, and you know, he just became a problem. He became a problem. And the thing is, me and my mom, we had a real close relationship. And I kind of feel like he was a little bit jealous of our relationship because he was doing everything he can to draw up, bring a wedge in between us. And I don't understand because like everything seemed so perfect. Like we was a family. We was going to church. I'm gonna tell you, I got that close to wanting to call him dad. Because he was there. He was there for me, and my dad wasn't. So I felt really close to him. So, but the problem is, well, the problem was, it came down to it, and I wound up having to leave home at age. I was almost 17 years old, I believe, and for years I blamed him for it. I blamed him for it. I was upset with him behind, the little troubles that he was causing. I spent a whole 75%, probably 70% of my life upset with that man and not forgiven for the things that he done. Even though, you know, I had forgiven my mom, but I just wouldn't allow myself to forgive him until a couple of years ago. And I noticed like the closer I try to, get to God, the more I realize that the things that are stopping me from growing is this is one of the things bitterness, uh, you know, hatred, resentment, anger. These things are stopping me from my blessings. They are stunting my blessings. So I came to the conclusion where I had to forgive. I had to forgive him. So as I came to this conclusion, and I turned away from all the anger, all the bad things about him, and I started seeing things clearly. It was at that point I realized, now I've been giving this dude uh, uh, a fit for all these years, being bitter, and the man done passed away, and I'm still angry with him. But when I finally decided to forgive and move forward, I was able to see things clearly. There's two things that I was able to see. One, that this man, he took me on, and he taught me so much. He taught me how to, you know, the things I told you, how to ride a bike, not ride a bike, but he taught me carpentry and, you know, just how to do things that like a man's supposed to do things. And it was needed at that time when I didn't have that solid relationship with my father, my dad. It was me having that father figure in my life, that positive, going to church every Sunday. Like all of these things were very valuable, and I was so focused on uh, the bad that I forgot all about the good things, the things that I wouldn't know to this day if he hadn't stepped in and showed me the way. So after that point, I began to understand, and I've forgiven him, and I thank him. He's passed away probably 10 years ago, and I want to say happy Father's Day to him also in heaven. Overall, I think he was a good dude. Over everything, I think he was a good dude. But even after I left home, um, I I had a chance to experience the projects, Baltimore City projects, for the first time. Well, not the first time, because I did grow up there when I was younger, but as a teenager, I was going to the projects for the first time. And when I was there, that's when I had the opportunity to be around some of my uncles. And I had some positive uncles in my life, that talked to us, they helped us, they encouraged us to do the right thing. Um, and I want to shout them out. Now, my uncle Journey, he just passed away about 2 years ago. William Simmons, he was the one that would cut all our hair. He was our barber. He would cut our hair, and he would fix our bikes for us, and until it got to the point where we learned how to fix our own bikes. But he taught us. He taught us all of that. He was a very positive person in our life. And then my Uncle Joe, he's another one that will pass through. Now, Uncle Joe wasn't a blood relative, but he was my cousin's father. And I got two cousins. That's his kids. He was their father. He is their father, and he would always come through and talk to us and make sure we doing the things we need to do and everything like that. So even though throughout this period of time where my dad wasn't there, I had people in my life that was very positive, that was you know very encouraging. And I feel like the young people now, if they had more people like that to kind of help and direct them, and they see that people really care about them, I think that they will be more positive. But you know, it's just a lot of kids are just raising their own selves, and or either they got the single mothers raising them, and it's just like the respect is not the way it should be. You know, like we had those male figures, like my grandfather, for instance. I didn't have much time with my grandfather. He was unalived, um, and the last memory I have of him, honestly, was him laying on the ground after being, um, you know, shot, and uh, that was it. That's the last time I saw him. My aunts, they rushed us off. It was me and a couple of my other cousins. We saw it, and they rushed us on in the house. I remember the ambulance coming, but we didn't get to see him going in the ambulance or nothing like that. That was the last time. That's the last memory I've seen. But here's the thing about my granddad. My granddad he was tough. He he was he was kind of like a gangster a little bit, you know. But he was also like a loan shark, and that's what actually caused him, to come to the end of his life, going to collect, um, the dude not paying, him threatening the dude, and he turned to walk away, and the dude wound up pulling a firearm and taking him out right there. So, um, but my grandfather was at that time before my uncles and all them came around. This is when I was younger. He was the one that my mom and my aunts, if we was being bad, they would tell him, and he'd come and get us. And he don't come get us with no belt, no sticks or nothing like that. He had this thing where he balled his fist up, and he'd stick his knuckle out on that fist like that, and he'd take that knuckle and put it up on your forehead and hold the back of your head, and he mow. It's called mow. He would mow our heads, and that thing, that thing hurt so bad. Like we ain't want no problems. We ain't want no problems with granddad. We did not want that mow. So we made sure that we was good, and our our moms didn't go run and tell granddad about nothing because we ain't want no smoke with granddad. But other than that, um, you know, I didn't get much time in with him like that. But I want to say rest in peace. And happy Father's Day to him too, because my granddad, uh, they came up in a time where it was husbands and wives, and I think they had 8 children. My granddad and grandma had 8 children that they raised, and he took care of all of his kids. You know, and a small household in a small house. I think maybe they had a 2 or 3 bedroom place or whatever, and he took care of all his kids. So props to him. For that. Um, uh, Later on down the line, I had positive people. Now, one person that I didn't mention, um, I had I had a guy from church that would go out of his way. He was like a mentor. He was always encouraging, always trying to, you know, keep me grounded in the Bible, stuff like that. Me and his kids, all of us young people. And I lived where he lived was basically a 3 minute ride from our church. And I lived completely on the other side of town. And uh, times when my mom and stepdad didn't go to church, and he knew that I wanted to come to church, he would come all the way on my side of town and get me and take me to church. Sometimes I would catch the bus, sometimes he would come and get me, but mostly every time he would take me home. And we would stop past McDonald's and get something to eat before we come back home, before he bring me back home. He was a very, very positive person in my life. And he came into play when I was going through the little ups and downs with my stepdad. So when I was going through that kind of tug of war type situation with my stepdad, God had this man to come into my life to help keep me grounded in the things that I needed to be doing, which was, you know, um, my Bible studies and being dedicated to God and stuff like that. He kept me grounded in that way. So and it was positive, and it kept me out of a lot of stuff. So I want to shout out to him. I hadn't seen him in years, but I heard he had passed away. So I don't know for sure. I'm just gonna say Happy Father's Day to Mr. Rudy. Mr. Rudy was a real positive influence in my life. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because, like I said, I got a lot of feedback on the posts that I put up, and there was a whole lot of people that was dedicating and had memories of their dads, and and the fact that they missed them, and it's everything like that. So I just wanted to just take time out just to, I know Father's Day is gone, and I know really in a sense when it come down to Father's Day, a lot of people forget about it. But to be honest, like there are some really decent guys out here that's doing their best to try to raise their kids, um, uh, and also helping others. Like shout out to all of the mentors. There are plenty of mentors around our country that are men that are reaching out and helping the young kids, not even just the boys and girls, helping them to be better people. So I want to shout out the mentors, even the people that don't have kids, that take time out to try to help the young people, the coaches and stuff like that, people that don't get too much credit, that if it wasn't for them, in a sense, like we wouldn't have the athletes that we have, the NBA players, the football players, you know, even though in a lot of cases they were tough, but to a lot of young men, they was the only father figure they had. So, and they those people really go unnoticed. They really go unnoticed, and people don't realize just how important and how special they are. So, I want to take this time, to say Happy Father's Day to them, even if they're not fathers. The fact that when you have kids like me, for instance, right? I never been an official coach, but I've always been, since I was an adult, trying to help young people, teaching them different things as far as basketball and trying to help them to stay out of trouble and stuff like that. So, in a sense, they became my little crew, you know, and I always made sure that I try to be positive around them and try to show them positive things in a positive way. And I appreciate, you know, the fact that they appreciated me being there for them. I didn't think nothing of it. It was just nothing of it. It was just natural to me because I know that young people they need positive influences in their life. They need more of that than people that's going to be encouraging them to be involved in nonsense. So when I look back, like I'm really happy that I've had the experiences that I've had with people, whether it was my little cousins or whether it was young people that I came across on a basketball court. You know, I feel good knowing that I was I played a part in them doing pretty good in their lives. Like I had one kid. This kid, when I met him, I'm not sure, but I believe this kid was only 9 years old, and this kid was taller than me. At 9 years old, he was tall. I said, "Dang!" I remember the first time I met him. I said, "How old are you?" You can see he had a little baby face. He said 9. I said, "Boy, you 9 years old and you that tall like that?" Oh man! So, we played basketball. We had a whole lot of fun. Years and years and years later, I was around our local market, and this big tall dude, he was every bit of 6'3". He came in there. He said, "Hey, what's up, old school?" They always call me old school. And I recognized his face. Even though he's older, got hair on his face now, I still recognize him. I said, "Hey, what's up, man? How you been?" He's like, "I've been good." He said, I'm working," and he, started telling me about himself or whatever. And he told me, he said, "Thank you for being there for us and helping us along." He said, "A lot of us didn't have like father figures and stuff, and you was always there trying to help us and encourage us." I ain't even gonna lie, man. I like that made me really feel special. Like I could have shed a tear off of that. Cause I ain't think nothing of it. It was just natural just to help them kids. So, but I felt proud just like a dad that, this kid had grew up, made something out of his life, doing good, has a family, providing for his family. Like, I feel good about that. I feel good about that. So I just encourage the men to, from this point, to just try to do the best you can, to just to try to be a positive role model. They used to have a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Uh, it really does. I feel like if it's more positive people pushing our young people versus the negative people, I feel like our kids will have a chance. they have a solid chance. If they, the more positive they experience, the less that they'll wind up involved in nonsense and in jail and all of that stuff like that that they don't need to be, you know. So I just encourage people to do that, and I really appreciate all of the men that made a difference in my life. Uh, my uncle Key, my uncle Key was he's married to my aunt, and it was a time in my life where I had got in some trouble that I didn't do. I didn't do this crime, and I had got arrested, and uh, I called my aunt, and my aunt and my uncle they came and got me. They took me in their house. Was no questions asked. I told them what happened. You know, they believed me off the back. You know, I didn't have to, you know, try to prove nothing. I guess I didn't have a reputation of lying about things. You know, if I was wrong, I would say it. You know, I would admit that I was wrong, and whatever the consequences is, I faced it. Like I wouldn't lie about things. So when I told them, you know, what happened, and I told them like, no, I didn't do that. They just accused me, and I didn't do that. It's automatic. They just came and got me, and they took care of me. They tried to help me get back in school and stuff like that. And he didn't have to do that. You know, he's the man of the house. Yeah, she's my aunt, but that was her husband, and that was his house. He had to say over his house, and it was no hesitation with him coming and them looking out for me. And I'll never ever forget that because when other people didn't believe me and didn't have confidence in me, they did. And not only did they come get me, but they try to help me even further to try to, you know, get my life together, try to get me back in school and all that stuff like that. Like, I really appreciate that. So I'll never ever forget that. I never forget that. You know, my Uncle Key, I never forget that. And and then my Uncle Andy, I didn't have a whole lot of time with my Uncle Andy. I didn't have a whole lot of time with him. Now, my Uncle Andy, he didn't really he didn't really come around the family that much. And I remember growing up and I was like, dang, we don't see Uncle Andy like that. I wonder why he don't never come around like that. And I remember we all used to be asking, because our family, I can say we was kind of close. Like you could, on any given day or cookout, you gonna see all of us. But it was very, very rare that we seen Uncle Andy. Now I know one, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and I know that they have rules. You know, some things that they can't participate in. I understand that now. And I didn't understand that then, but I understand it now. So I know that was one of the reasons that he wasn't coming around. You know, because holidays like Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that, they don't celebrate that stuff like that. So I understand now. But then it was some other things as far as the family that I didn't know then that I know now, and I have a better understanding why he was staying away. You know, but here's the thing. This was what's special about him. My uncle Andy was diagnosed with cancer, pancreatic cancer, and he only had a few weeks to live. When he found out about it, I think he had 2 months. They was giving him 2 months. Well, within them 2 months, uh, before he left, he wanted to come here. I think he was living in Texas, and he wanted to come here and see me and my mom before he passed away. And I thought that was special in itself. Like he wanted to see us. Like it meant that much to him that he want to come and see us, it's already said that he's going to be gone, but like it meant a lot. So when he came, I took off. I had to work that weekend. I took that whole weekend off, and I had a chance to meet his wife for the first time. I had never met his wife. Beautiful, beautiful couple, beautiful lady. And we took them out. We took them to the movies. We took them boardwalk at the beach. Anywhere they wanted to go, we took them, and we just had a wonderful time. And to see the love between them, how they cared for each other and catered to each other, it was an inspiration. It was an inspiration, and I had a chance to spend those few days with him, and it probably was less than 2 weeks later he was gone. But I never ever forget him, and I always will. The thing is, he wasn't a father. He never had any kids. He never had any kids. But there was, if there was anything that we needed, he would help us. If we ever needed anything, and that's including his siblings. His siblings was the same way. So to me, I think that's like a father figure. That's somebody that cares, for people, and do things that they really don't have to. Well, a father is supposed to, but I think that can be more like a mentor or a father figure also. Somebody that will go out of their way to help people that's in need, when they don't really have to. Like, it's got to be something that's said for them too. So I want to shout out to him too, and say happy heavenly Father's Day, because he, in a sense, was like a father figure to me too. You know, and I appreciated getting the time to spend with him, the chance to spend the time with him before he left this earth. It taught me some things, and it was very special. So, and I didn't mention him in my last video, but it was important. It's important to me that I acknowledge the people that made a difference in my life. They kind of sort of like unsung heroes. You know, some people that people don't think much of, like the mentors or the coaches. People don't think a lot of, and we got to give credit where credit is due. Because these people help to mold us and help to mold our children. So we have to, give props where props is due. But I just wanted to say, to the people that reached out and they mentioned their loved ones, their fathers that had passed. I just wanted to say God bless you and God bless your hearts. I know, with me personally, um, my dad has been gone since '99, but it's still an emptiness. It's something that you never get over. When you lose a parent, it's something that you never get over. You just move forward and just try to do the best you can, but you never forget them. Even if I don't think, even if you was not really close with them, it's still a piece in your life that's missing. Even if y'all didn't have like the best relationship, I think it still hits. It still hits you hard. When the holidays come around and birthday and Father's Day, like you're going to think about it. So I just wanted to say God bless you, and you know I wish you well as you move on. But I come to the realization that you know we all going to experience it. We all going to experience it one day, and I feel like I stand strong on every day that God wakes us up. He's given us another opportunity to fulfill His prophecy and to be great ourselves. So that's what I go with. Every day I get up, I try to, try to improve. Now, I gotta be honest. Now, it came some time where I battled depression and, thinking about it, thinking about my brother, who's gone, and happy Heavenly Father's Day to him also. My brother, he's been gone now about 7 years now, almost 7 years, 6 years, and that was a hard pill to swallow, right there with my brother, you know, and even after these years, like I'm still dealing with scars behind losing my brother, you know, and the great thing now, my brother, he was you know, he didn't do all the right things in the beginning as a father. He was young and silly. But one thing I noticed before he passed, he was trying to do everything he can to do the right thing by his kids. You know, he had changed and turned away from that wild, crazy person and was trying to be, more of a solid father figure. So, I was very proud of him and what he was trying to do. Even though some of the older kids were kind of upset, but they was kind of coming around for him because they seen sincerity in him. They see he really was trying to make things right with them. So, they started, kind of coming together. But he was taken. He was taken, way too early. He was taken from us. And, it's in God's hands now. But happy heavenly birthday to him. I mean, not birthday, Father's Day to him. His birthday is in May. Um, you know, these people we will always miss, we will always love, they will always be treasured in our hearts, and you know, and that's it. But I just wanted to take this time for this channel. Oh, Jolie is not here right now. Actually, she's back there on the machine. But I'm gonna tell you this, on her behalf and on my behalf. Now, her dad is still around. Her dad is 78 years old. And the crazy thing is, I didn't tell y'all this story. I met her dad before I even met her and her mom or any of them. It was at the point where I was taking care of my dad. I didn't have a car at the time. So in Baltimore, they have what they call hacks. Hacks is like a substitute for a taxi cab. This was before Uber, young people. There was no Uber back then. So with the hacks, like they would hang out at the markets and stuff like that, and you go up there looking for a hack, and they'll take you where you gotta go and you pay them. They'll tell you how much they charge you, and you pay them. So my father, he had some stuff to take care of. His beginning of the month, he had bills to take care of. He was in a wheelchair, so I went up there to go get a hack. Turned out it was Jolie's father. So he came back and he took us around. Really nice dude. He was so nice that us conversating and everything. He didn't even want to take no money from us. We was like, nah. Both me and my dad was like, no, man. Said you been running us around all day. You could have been out here making money. No, we're not gonna do that. And the sad thing is, he's just that type of person. He's kind-hearted like that, and people will take. I have seen people take advantage of him. I have seen people, even though he's saying no, don't worry about it. They'll sit right there instead of do the right thing and going and give the man. They'll sit right there and be like, all right, and come on now, you just don't do that. But anyway, so uh, throughout the time that I was taking care of my dad, I had started depending on him to be our personal hack. So whenever my dad needed to run around, I'd go in and find him, and he'd be out, take us around or whatever. That's the only person we had, right? So even down to when my dad passed away, he came to his funeral and everything. So, but before that, um, my mom called me one day because my mom was raising my brother's second oldest child, and she had him over at the babysitters, and she wanted me to pick him up from the babysitters. Now I had never been over there before, so I was like, okay, I'll go. So I went over to go pick my nephew up from the babysitters, and when I got there, uh, it turned out to be Jolie's house. Now I didn't know it was her father's house. I just I met her for the first time, and I met her mom for the first time. And as soon as I got in there, her mom was like, "Come on in, baby. You want something to eat?" I said, "I got some fish in there. I got some French fries." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I take some. Yeah, yeah, I take some." Man, it was so good. It was so good to the point I was sitting there like, "Dang, I sure wouldn't mind having another piece." And it was almost like she read my mind. She's like, "You want another one?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness." So anyway, I'm sitting there, and my mom called. She said, "Well, just stay there. I'm on my way there." So I'm sitting there, I'm talking with them or whatever. Then all of a sudden, Jolie's father come in the house. I was like, "Hey, Joe." I said, "What you doing here?" He said, "What you doing here?" He said, "I live here. This my house." I said, "What?" I said, "This is a small world." All the time, his wife had been taking care of my nephew, and I never even knew it. He been helping me take care of my dad, and his wife been helping my mom take care of my nephew, and I never even knew it. I never even knew it. Like it was, that was the strangest. And the thing is, where I was getting him to help me with my dad was clean across town. It was nowhere up in that area where they live. It's way on the other side of town, on the east side, and he lived over on the west side. And that was something. That was amazing. And I was like, wow, all of this time, I didn't even know that was, they was, taking care of my nephew or whatever. So shortly after that, that's when my dad passed away, and they actually came to the funeral and everything, supported and everything like that. And we've been friends ever since. So like I said, he's still around. So I wanted to say for the first time, uh, happy Father's Day to him, Joseph Merriweather. Like he's been a positive uh, person in my life throughout the years. Um, like I said, starting from when he helped me, take my dad around, all the way into um, eventually I wind up a single man, and Jolie wind up a single woman, and we decided to go out on some dates. Thanks to her mom that who encouraged us to go out on dates because we sitting around the house, all of us we sitting there watching wrestling, and her mom said, "Why don't y'all go out on a date? Y'all two young people sitting around." So that was the starting point for us going out or whatever like that, and you know I guess we just been family ever since. So shout out to him, for what he has done for us, and how he has supported us, throughout the years. Like I always be grateful for that, because that was, really, um, it was a really, it was a time when I really needed that extra, and he was there. He's always been there. So shout out to him. But other than that, there's some others, and I can go down the list of the names of different ones that deserve it. But I know Father's Day is over, but I want to say Happy Father's Day to all of the great dads out here in the world. I have one request. One request. I know there's some great dads out here that really want to be in their children's life, and I know Sometimes when relationships don't work, it be situations where it'd be kind of hard for the dads to really get time in with their kids. Um, I guess I can say I'm speaking from experience, but um, if I can make a plea, you know, I would say this: these young people need men in their life. They need father figures, you know, and not just the man that you're dating. They need their father in their life also, you know. And if the father is a positive man that's not going to have your kid out being a knucklehead, and they, you know, they really wanting to be in that child's life, you know, put your personal feelings aside and let them kids have an opportunity to get the love from a dad also, because what happens is when they don't, you wind up with kids that have bitterness and resentment either towards you or towards the dad, and it's really unnecessary. It's unnecessary. You know, most people when they go into having kids, they would like for it to be a relationship that lasts forever. You know, a mom and dad in the house and everything, all of the bells and whistles. But sometimes it don't work out that way. But you got to be mature enough to say, you know, we created something special, and I want to the same way we did it in love, and we wanted to be a part. I mean, we wanted each other to be a part. Being single and separated from each other, we have to still have that energy. I want you to be a part of this special gift, and you know, vice versa. Y'all both need to be a part of that special gift. So I would just make a plea to people, you know, just put your personal feelings aside and let these kids get a piece of both of their, you know, family, both of their sides of the family, so that these kids can be balanced. They can be more balanced, and the boys can be men. The boys need to be men. You know, they need men, real men, to teach them how to be men. You know, but that's all I got, y'all. That's all I got. I just wanted to do that. Um, I've been off my game. Usually, I like to find one of the posts that I have throughout the week that stood out the most. I like to try to speak on it. I haven't really been doing it. Like I said, I've been battling through depression and stuff. Jolie, we both had some things going on around here, so we both haven't been locked in. But you know, we're gonna get back in it and start getting back on track. But I couldn't let the month go out without honoring the fathers, the dads, and the mentors and the coaches and everybody that means something. Every man that means something to somebody. I just want to shout them out in this moment, and I wanted to do that for the first time on this channel. But that's all I got, y'all. That's all I got for now. But as I always say, I appreciate y'all. I thank you for all of y'all love and support. Y'all always been, you know, kind and supportive of our channel. I know we just starting pretty good. Um, Down the line, we'll have Jolie involved a little bit more as we go down the line. But until then, we're just going to keep it moving. But I love y'all. Y'all just make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Check your notifications. Like we still kind of wet behind the ears with this, but hey, we're gonna be good. But as I always say, love, peace, and blessings to all of y'all. All right, I appreciate you. I'll see y'all in the next one. All right, God bless.